If you're trying to make soul samples and you can't quite get that vintage soul sounding type of sound, this is the video for you. I first started with this contact upright piano and I laid down these very simple chords. One of the most important elements about soul and old vintage 60s, 70s type of samples was the fact that although stereo recordings became increasingly more and more popular, pretty much all of the songs from this time period was recorded in mono. So to achieve that real soul vintage sounding sound, I made the piano mono, added a cassette for some tape emulation, and a simple compressor and this Manny Moroccan reverb from Waves. And I grabbed this flute phrases from my free Flute Archives flute phrases kit. It has 30 live recorded flute phrases. You can make hip hop, trap, soul, and whatever you want with this kit. And I use this loop and this is what it sounds like with the piano. And here again, I made it in mono and pretty much added the same effects. Next, I went into Tempo from Teletone Audio to program this percussion loop and this like drum fill at the end to give it more bounce. And the fill was used to kind of transition from 4 to 5. And for this, I used pretty much the same effects again, a cassette, a compressor, and a reverb. And then to add a bit of variation, I added this guitar loop from Splice. For the effects, again in tape cassette, I also added this Waves guitar amp, and this time an Abbey Road Chambers reverb to get a little room reverb. And then I went in good old Scarby Rickenbacker bass and laid this pretty simple bass line. And then finally, I added this vocal phrase from my upcoming R&B Vocals Volume 2 that will drop very soon. In the meantime, you can get R&B Vocals 1 completely for free. Link will be in the description also down below. And I bounced everything out and added these master effects, so I pitched everything up by 6. I added a CLA 2A compressor from Waves. And finally, again, you could see probably one of my favorite plugins, this Waves Factory cassette tape. So for this next sample, I kind of wanted to make it more of like a gospel soul type of sample. So again, I started with an upright piano. To that, I added a Wolf compressor and a Valhalla plate. And then the next thing I did, I went in Contact and picked this Una Corda. And I didn't want to layer a piano, but I went in this preset called Just Noise. And if I play it for you, here's what it sounds like. It's only the sound of the keys actually just being pressed, like the physical sound, not the actual musical sound, but the physical sound of the keys being pressed, just to add a bit more of that realistic feel. Just those imperfections is what's gonna add more realism to your samples. Next, I went in East-West and I wanted to get like a choir, so I simply layered the piano chords, and here's what they sound like. So So to that I did pretty much the same processing I do on most of my vocals. I have a Shep 73 from Waves, then a little alto board doing a very small bit of sound form and shifting, an Abbey Road chambers for a simple room reverb, and then a CLA 2A compressor. And again, all of these sounds are in mono to make it seem as if they were recorded on a real tape cassette. And then I went into this other library from the same like East-West collection. It's called Goliath, because this time I picked a Celeste. Celeste is a perfect layer if you want to add layer, because this instrument was used a lot back in the days. And to give it its own place in the mix, I panned it quite like to the left, because you're gonna see right now what I did to fill the right. This time I wanted to layer the top notes with this Glockenspiel sound, and this is a sound that I panned quite far to the right, and so these two together sound like this. And then for the final layer, I went back into Goliath again, and I picked this like Riven song preset. It's like multiple instruments like layered together. Also for the bass, again, you cannot go wrong with the Scarby Rickenbacker bass. And then I added this Perc texture and these textured drums from my upcoming R&B multi-kit. So here's what we got so far. And then, obviously, to finish the sample off, I went in R&B vocals 2, and I picked this Turn On You vocal phrase, and with the master effects pitching it down to a cassette, and this Aphex vintage stereo exciter, this is what the final sample sounds like. So that's all from me today. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.